Hey, what's up? Welcome to episode 5 of the TheThrowAwayDays podcast. I'm your host, Cody Jones, stillborn identity, Crispin Glover, aka Crispy Rubber. This episode is brought to you by Keystone Hops Farm of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Keystone Hops, we grow it, they brew it, you drink it. The goal of Keystone Hops is to provide the highest quality hops to service the local microbrewers as their community partner. Visit them at the web, www.keystonehopsfarms.com. That company is actually my friend's thing. Pretty pumped to have it on there because he's going to gain like millions and millions of followers now. So it's pretty nice that I'm going to set him up for life like that. I'm actually going to push these ads a little harder. If you want to have your ad placed on Throwaway Days podcast or in the zine or anything like that, hit me up at thethrowawaydays@gmail.com, or I'm going to start putting deals on Fiverr, even though I don't know how that site works. But I actually just have to pay to host these podcasts now. And that's kind of the reason for the delay. It's been like a month since we put out an episode. By we, I mean I. Just because I wasn't sure if I really wanted to invest money in this podcast or not. But I decided I do. So I'm back. Check it out. Today our guest is Mr. of a group called Passalaqua from Detroit, Michigan. But before we get into that, I got some shows and a few other things to announce. I got a few shows with Momoande on Friday, July 15th. We'll be in Pittsburgh at Local 412. We're playing with Greasy Does It and a whole bunch of other fools. Wednesday, July 20th, we'll be in Detroit, Michigan at Old Miami. Friday, July 22nd in Port Huron? I don't know, I can't really read. Port Huron, Michigan, somewhere on the Great Lakes at Schwank Soundsteed. I don't know, I can't read and it kind of hinders me, but whether I can pronounce that place right or not, I'll be there, goddammit. But yeah, I got a couple shows with Nate on. That'll be tight. It's fun going out with him. The last time we went out, it was super tight. And it was also like kind of extra stressful because like before the show or like before our little run, I got like a few messages and tweets and whatever that people are like, hey, we're coming out to this show. Like almost every city, which was like tight. I'm like, wow, people are actually like coming to see me now. But then I was like, holy fuck, I hope I don't disappoint them. So gaining your own fans is stressful, man. You never think about that whenever you like have like people that are driving to see you entertain them. It's like, holy shit, I hope I don't disappoint them. Like, you actually paid for this. Wow. You know, you're not just like someone's friend at the show. You came to see me. But I guess that was the goal at first. I don't know. It's just like, whoa, now it's happening. Cool. So we're doing those, got a little run of shows. What else is up with me? I just dropped the skate edit. It's on TheThrowAwayDays.com. I finally updated the website. So you can go over there, check out a bunch of mostly Pittsburgh footy that I filmed over the last like 2 years. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into the interview with Mr. It was tight. Right off the bat, he was like, we talked about what we were doing for a living, and he was just pretty much like, yeah, I just do creative things for a living, which I thought was super awesome. So the whole conversation was good. I met him not that long ago, and this was probably the only second or third time I met him in person. But we banged out an interview real quick at a coffee shop right before his show at Howler's. So sorry if it's a bit noisy, but you're just going to have to deal with it. And since I know you lazy bums never actually probably look up the artist after I interviewed them, you just listen to their interview and that's it. Most of you at least. That's what I do. I know I do that. I put a song by Mr. at the end of this. So if you like the interview, you think he's a cool guy, you're like, yeah, I want to support him. And then you can listen to the music and then just be sure that's something you want to do or something. I don't know. Let's just go to the interview. All right. Peace. I work for my dad in like Warrendale. It's like 20 minutes north of here. Fixing cars and shit.
Nice.
Yeah. It's okay. What do you do in Detroit?
I do a lot of like freelance video work.
Yeah, so you did I know the last time the round robin video came through, you did the video for that,
Did
right?
the video, and I did the 85-pound one, the one that just came out for
I
the
didn't
store.
see it.
Oh yeah, so I did that one. I'm always doing video work and just creative shit. And
yeah.
Like I'm looking for like a more full-time position.
Yeah.
Hopefully like with video stuff, but I've been doing like CD duplication and that for several years, but it's just like moving on to the next thing. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How do you get most of your freelance video jobs?
I think it's just through friends.
Yeah.
It's always like, you know, my friends say, hey, I have this show, can you do like a promo spot, or like I need a flyer for this thing, and so it's just like I'll just lend a hand where it's needed.
Yeah.
And so
sounds like stuff with like smaller budgets though, or
usually
like,
smaller budget. You know, it's like if it's friends, I'm like, okay, cool. But then also like at a certain point, and the friends know it too. It's like you kind of have to get. You just get paid for your work. It's the same way, like, I'll still buy, like, friends' CDs. I don't have to. I could probably get it for free, but it's like, you know, it's just, you know, you're respecting their work. And
for sure.
So.
That's tight. Dude, I saw you had a Pontiac number. Is that where you're from?
Well, I'm in Detroit.
Yeah.
So 248, the area code, it's like, Pontiac in, like, Oakland County. So I
raced the Silver Dome, bro.
Yeah, man, the Silver Dome is so crazy. It's such a crazy, especially like.
Is it still there?
Yeah, have you seen like the photos inside now?
No.
That it's nuts. I'll just
really?
have to say, because it's just like they've let it all just rot
really?
to shit. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So it's still standing there. There's a friend of mine had like a photo shoot in there, and it's just like
You just like break in and go for it, or is it like?
I guess so. I think like
not tear him out. But.
Yeah, like he looked like it looked like a fairly professional shoot.
Yeah.
So like I think it's just so desolate that nobody's even coming, and so or you could spot people from a mile away because it's just like a vacant lot, and then the Silver Dome. So
that's true.
But I've been in Detroit for. A little over 3 years.
Oh, really? That's it?
Yeah. So I've been in the area, but just like steadily getting. Now I'm like Detroit proper, as opposed to like.
Okay.
There's a big thing in like Detroit of like I'm from Detroit. It's like, well, you're from Clawson or you're from Ferndale, like just like the outer suburbs.
Yeah.
But it's just easier to say Detroit.
Yeah.
And there's like because like I grew up in Rochester.
Okay.
So if I said I grew up in Rochester, they go, oh, Rochester, New York. Well, no, Rochester, and they're like, oh, Minnesota. It's like, I'm from Detroit. So it's just like it depends on who you're talking to, but like the radius of what Detroit is like all of southeastern Michigan. So But I've been in the city, just like hopped around in a few places, but I'm in like Southwest.
Okay.
Now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. How long ago did Passalaqua start? What's the other dude's name in that group?
Brent.
Brent.
The blacksmith. Yeah.
The blacksmith.
We start. What was it? 2011.
Okay.
So like I've been doing solo stuff for I don't know 10 years or something at this point. And then there's a showcase that a local like a weekly rag the Metro Times would do, the Metro Times Blowout.
Okay.
For a long time, it was seen as like you paid X amount of dollars for the weekend. It was in Hamtramck, which is like a city within Detroit. So, it's like it's its own city, but it's within Detroit's border.
Okay.
So they had like just like a lot of bars in a concentrated area. You get a wristband, and they have all these sort of like showcases of people that you'd never see together.
Yeah.
And so it kind of tried to have this thing where you would see a bunch of bands you never thought you would see, but you would in turn really probably fall in love with some of these bands.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing was like to just jump around. So you had a wristband, you could just go in anywhere.
Pretty much like it's like you're pretty much just bar hopping. And there's like a million shows at all the bars.
Yeah, so it was like the largest local music festival I think in the country. I mean, there was like just
and it's strictly Detroit acts.
Yeah, well, and or like
Michigan.
Michigan acts. So like now it's kind of gotten to a point that I think the blowout is maybe over. They started expanding far too much.
Yeah.
I think the joy of it was cold. Everybody's fucking walking on black ice. You're bumping into people because it's only like on a handful of streets. Yeah. And you're going to see some of your friends, and then you're catching bands you never thought you'd see. So I had a show. I had that in like 2010. And it was like my first big show in the Detroit area. Yeah. And I was like, I need to have more than just me. Yeah. And so Brent and I went to middle school together. I was like, well, we know each other, and he raps. He had this group Coleman Young, and I was like, well, I'll just be like, do you want to like hype me on this? Like, it's a bigger show. So we checked out the venue a couple days before, and then he was just on stage with me, and it just sort of worked. Like, the energy was good, and like. Yeah. From there, he just started being my hype man for solo shows. Okay. And whenever he could. And then I think I just had a bunch of beats that I never finished the songs. And I was like, well, do you want to like just jump on these songs? Like, might as well. We're doing these shows. And like, So we're like, let's do this like 5-song, 6-song EP. If people like it, cool. If not, that's cool too. Whatever. It was just seen as sort of like an afterthought of like just based out of, hey, we did this shit. Why not?
Yeah.
And people really liked it. Like it was. And Detroit's a hard place for people to get over. Everybody's doing shit all the time.
Yeah, it seems like very like stubborn city. Like, oh, you do something? Yeah. I mean, we did that like 2 years ago or some shit.
People are very like they've seen it all before.
Yeah.
What's new? Like this is nothing new. So like for whatever reason, the dynamic of us, or the artwork, or the production, or all of it, really grabbed people. And so like people started. At first we were like, we're not going to do any shows.
Was it like, did you have the name for it right away, or it was just like you just had your 2 solo names?
We had like we were like, because we met in middle school, we're like we should have something about middle school, and so we threw some like names around, or like old teachers and stuff. But there was a kid that we went to school with. It was kind of like picked on a lot. We never picked on him, but he was just like an easy target because he was just kind of like a nerdy kid. Yeah. And it was Dan Passalaqua, and we're like, just the name was like, it was just like a cool name.
I was wondering how that was tying together.
Yeah, so like it was just like just always rolled out the tongue.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's just do that. Why not? And like to this day, people can't pronounce it or spell it right.
No, but I couldn't either.
Yeah. So that's what's up. But like, and we have a documentary, and we couldn't get a hold of him for years, and then we finally heard. And first, he thought this was a continuation of people making fun of him. Yeah. And then he realized that we were actually trying to just do good, like it just happened to be like that we really enjoyed his name. There was nothing making fun of him or anything, and he really like learned to like really appreciate the music and like enjoy it.
Cool. So you got in touch with this kid?
Yeah, it took a long time because we like his numbers changed.
Yeah.
This, that, and so we finally met up at like a Coney, and we got
what's the Coney?
Oh, like a Coney Island, like just like a diner, greasy spoon sort of spot, and he was kind of like he basically was just like, I needed this as much as I needed to talk to you guys more than anything. Like he was kind of wanting to like thank us for like reaching out to him, and also like that we're doing something
not
good.
Being a dick.
Not being a dick. Not like, well, fuck this kid still, right? You know?
Yeah. I still haven't grown up.
Yeah, right. So so like that was like 2011, and just it's again like with Detroit, it's really hard to get over. You have to really bust your ass, and for whatever reason, people just got around it. I was doing a lot of shows with rock bands and stuff, and so you had like the rock community getting on our side, and Brent was in Coleman Young, which is pretty established in like both the spoken word and the poetry scene, but also in the hip hop scene. Yeah. So we're getting a lot on all angles, and it just was like a good timing thing. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it worked out really well, and so it was like about 5 years ago.
That's tight. So you guys went to middle school together? Did you like? Were you both like hip hop heads back then too, or?
No, we didn't really like. We knew each other. We never like hung out, I guess, but like we were aware of each other. I think my extent of hip hop when I was in middle school was like fucking DMX. You know what I mean? I had like Flesh My Flesh, Blood My Blood, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. That was a big year for DMX, and like I had like Life After Death and shit. But and like Brent was always into Jay-Z, but I think the like hip hop. I lived in Michigan. I grew up in Michigan, and then I lived in Maryland I lived in Gaithersburg. So Gaithersburg's I always say it's like the last stop on the red line on the subway, but it's like just outside of like Bethesda. It's like 20-30 miles out of DC, something like that. So I moved there when I was 13, and I was there through high school. And that's where I kind of got like the hip hop knowledge. Yeah. And it was interesting just because like I would come back for the winters, and as I started getting into like I was really into like horrorcore shit in Detroit, like ICP, Twisted, but then like the local ones. So you had like Half Breed, and you had House of Crazies, and you had Bedlam, and so I was listening to that shit.
You're like a DIY juggalo.
Yeah, DIY juggalo. The actual juggalo, like I will say, like I don't listen to ICP anymore, but I really respect it. Yeah. And now listening back to some of the songs, some of the shit, like I've laughed real hard at just certain lines.
It's probably something that like ages. Like when you're a little kid, you probably hear like certain things, and then it's like watching like a kid's movie as an adult, like, oh, there's like adult humor in here too.
Yeah. Like, so it's like I've seen like some things have revealed themselves like listening to it later. But so I was really into that stuff, and there was a group they came from Half Breed. They became this group of Level Jumpers, and that was a big transition point for me as far as what hip hop was, because they were notorious for writing just evil horrorcore lyrics, and then Level Jumpers became this. They were calling it purified hip hop. So it was like a complete 180, and it was really, all the beats were really chill. It was very like introspective, and it was very just conscious and not. It was just completely different, and I was like, I think at the time I didn't realize like, oh, you can just do that. You can just do anything you want. So I started getting more into like the backpacking hip hop of the early 2000s and like Def Jux and all that shit. So like I was going to Baltimore and DC by myself, seeing Idea and Abilities, seeing Atmosphere.
That
That's
was
awesome.
Like, that was like the time for it, man.
That was a sweet time for it. And so I was really fortunate that like a lot of my friends didn't go to these shows, but I in many instances I brought like my camcorder. I would just tape these shows. Sick. So like the Auto Bar used to be in Baltimore. The original one was like tiny, and so like I would just be at the top and I'd just be shooting.
Really? Yeah. Do you still have this footage?
Somewhere. I feel like I have the tape somewhere, because I used to edit them in high school and stuff. But seeing like Idea and Abilities was incredible, and like A$AP Rocky and Mr. Lift doing sets together. And,
that's crazy.
The Camu Te'ao and like all these people that like, I think that was really important to me, and I didn't, not living in Detroit, I didn't have. I feel like when you're in Detroit, that really affects your sound. If you're there and you're listening to all the people from there.
Yeah.
So I was removed from that, and I think that's why I eventually sound the way I do. Where some people were
as
like,
opposed to you don't sound Detroit or whatever.
I've heard that before. People saying like, you don't sound like you're from Detroit, and like I get that.
Good.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. You know, like I take that, I guess, in some respects as a compliment, because sometimes, like, the same way in any area, like you can sound very like, oh, you're very clearly from this spot. And I've always been like, I've always wanted music to be further than just the city limits. Like I never thought of like, I'm gonna be a Detroit rapper. I'm gonna be a Gaithersburg, Maryland. That's not a big rapper. Well, Logic, I guess, the guy,
Who?
Logic.
Logic.
He's pretty big now. I think he's most known for he can freestyle and like solve a Rubik's cube in like a minute. But he's
at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. But he's from Gaithersburg, but I digress. But like so I got a lot of just listening to Def Jux and Rhyme Sayers and all that stuff in Maryland was really good, and it just, that's the stuff that kind of informed me on what would happen, like where my music would go. And so I moved back to Michigan and I started recording stuff, and then
how old were you at that point?
I was like, well, I started like writing and going to all these shows like 15, 16.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was like 30 now, so it was like, middle of high school, so I was just writing every day.
That's it.
It was just like...
When you actually had time to write all day, every day?
I had time to write, it was like, there's pictures in my like old yearbooks of like, Brian's working really hard on his homework, and it's like, there was always rap. It was always, I was sitting in the, I was in the hallways writing, I was freestyling at lunch, and I think when you start understanding hip-hop, it's like, I need more, I need all of this in my life. So I was like...
So were your friends, like, into it at that point, too? Like, in either place?
Yeah, I mean, like...
Or were you just the dude, like, freestyling by yourself and people like, yo, potato, give me that potato.
I'm like, stop, I don't have a potato.
It's a tomato.
Yeah. I think, there's some people that were really into it, and I think, there was one kid that's still a friend of mine now that, like, he was 2 years younger than me, but he was hipping me to shit he's like, have you heard of Little Brother? And I was like, who's Little Brother? And then he showed me the Listening, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. And like, he was like the first kid that I saw like rocking a Jurassic 5 shirt in school and stuff. And so there was definitely some people into it, and like I informed a lot of my friends. I was with like a bunch of people that listened to like metal and like Converge and Hatebreed and shit. Same. So like but they were very close to each other, and then, there's a lot of commonalities, and so we would I kind of would show them shit, they would show me shit, and so it just became like a mutual love, and we just and again, like with hip hop, like you start there, it's like I know this much, and then it just keeps expanding, and you're like, oh man, there's just so much, and so I was like the same way. Like all my friends were like
we were in a band for a while, and they watched this like Converge DVD like every other band practice. They were just always watching that shit. Yeah. And then like eventually I got into rap, and it just like didn't hit everyone else the same way. So I was like lone wolf, dude. Just like I'm soul seek by myself. I'm all like, well, who has Soul collaborated with? I'll download them next. So like
and some people are like, I don't get like I feel like I had certain points where I'd be like listening to stuff. And then, like, people that don't listen to hip-hop are like, this isn't hip-hop. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Yeah, or like, this shit's, or like Jurassic 5 was like, this shit's too happy, or something. And then, like, I show my friend, like, Slug, and be like, listen, here's all the girl problems you're having right now. Yeah. Like, and he's like, oh, I get it.
You need, like, that opportune time. You need that as the gateway.
Yeah, you need that one person to be like, here.
Oh, you wrecked your car? Here, I got the song for that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Fucking Car Troubles, J-Live. That was one of the early ones. Yeah. So I was like, so yeah, over time, everybody sort of, came together. And I just feel like I still fuck with Converge, you know what I mean? But yeah, just like, rap in high school was really huge for me. And like, it taught me a lot about like myself, where I was like, because I've always like writing, but then it was something I was like, okay, cool, I think this is good. And be freestyling and at lunch and battling and all that shit. So, it was a lot of fun.
That's tight. So you're back in Michigan. You're doing shit like still in high school. Were you like playing it all or just recording then?
Well, I graduated in 04 and I moved back. And I started. I was like, I knew I had songs, but all the recordings were kind of like shitty. Like I recorded a little bit in Maryland right before I graduated. Right after I graduated. But I knew that like, if I stayed in Maryland, I was never going to get anything accomplished because I just started finding out what drinking was. So I was just like, let's all just get fucked up all the time. And I knew just like nothing would come of me doing any music. So coming back was really a blessing. And so I found in the Metro Times there was like a little ad that had like the dual popsicle sticks together. It was like popsicle recording. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. I don't know anybody in the city. And I called up this guy and started recording with him. I also recorded a spot in Oak Park, which is outside of Detroit, and that's where I met like the Almighty Dreadnoughts, the like Guilty Simpsons crew.
Okay.
I did a song with one of the guys there in the Dreadnoughts. I never heard the song. Really? I was young. I fucking dreaded weirdo kid just doing these raps, but
you were?
Yeah. I think I don't know if hip hop influenced the dreadlocks or what. So I was just like this fucking stoner weirdo kid I was using big words and they were making fun of me, but it was fun, So I did that. That was like early recordings, and I started recording this guy Brian Woodring, and that's where I started kind of like feeling like I hit some sort of niche or like figuring out what I sounded like. And around the same time, I was getting beats from a friend of mine that I didn't go to high school with him, but some friends of mine did, and so we started getting together. He was doing a lot of beats, so he did a lot of my early production work. He did like Dead Fish Eyes, the Passalaqua track with Doc Waffles. He did a song of mine called The Ooze.
Okay.
And
so he still has some.
He still has beats, and I still have like a lot of beats of his that I just started listening to him again. I'm like, I can still fuck with this. But so I was doing some stuff with him, and then I also, this is like the tail end of MySpace, but I started meeting up with. It started with like an Autobot situation where like people would just have this Autobot and they would just add 1,000 people. Yeah. And then like you'd be friends and whatever. But and at the most point, it was pretty much a numbers thing, and most people didn't respond. They would just accept the request. I forgot how it worked. But this one guy, Dr. B, I was like, oh, I really like your stuff. And he was like, I think he was probably taken aback.
Someone actually responded.
Yeah, and he's like, oh shit, like, and he like listened to my stuff.
I was trying to get my numbers up.
Right. He was doing a good job. And then he was like, I like your stuff too. Maybe we can work on something. And then he had like a friend from the UK. So I like worked on this track with him, and he was like, "This is really good. We should just keep working on stuff." And so we did a whole bunch of songs. Some were out, some not.
Yeah.
He was the one that produced the first Passalaqua EP.
Okay.
He produced At the Party.
Okay.
And so he did like a bunch of work, and then through him I met another UK producer named QC, and he did like Need That Food, and that was like my first real EP.
Okay.
Was with him. And so it was like through MySpace I met a lot of these people. And then one more London producer that I'm working on finishing my album, even though it's been like 6 years, it's almost done. And so like it's went through all the phases of my life, and so that's coming close. Also worked on beats with this guy, Figure. Now, Figure at the time, was just like a hip hop producer. He got really big in like dubstep or drum step, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
He just put out a project with Cast One on Strange Famous.
Okay.
So I had
I
have an EP of songs that I never released. I think I didn't know how to. Mm-hmm. I'm young. I don't know anybody. I'm in Rochester, Michigan.
Yeah. You're like, well, what do I? Yeah. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like,
what's the point?
I'm gonna sell these to my aunt. That's
right.
it.
I'm gonna print out 50, and then what's it worth? And so like those songs, I feel like have to come out soon, just for closure, or just I feel like I have very minimal storage space in my brain until I get these songs out, and then it's like, oh cool, I can continue. So so MySpace was the best. Shouts to MySpace.
I was like, every artist, like, I caught like the tail end of it too, but like my age and up, like everyone got their jump off there. It was like huge. It was like the best thing ever.
It was it was massive, and it was like you could just reach out to so many people you never would have found otherwise, and it was just like, it was a great thing. And so getting back to the original thing, I was just recording on stuff because I knew I wasn't ready for shows.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how. Again, it was of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So this is not like, I don't think this is good for me to just go into a show like this.
Yeah.
So I finally got like a CDJ and like started just playing these beats and whatever, and then like I started doing shows little by little, and then there's a spot in Rochester called The Factory. And it used to be a record store, and there was just this bright yellow garage door. It was in an alleyway in downtown Rochester, and it was an all-ages venue. It was really small, but it was like, in Rochester, there's not much for kids to do.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're a baby or if you're very old, Rochester's great. You have a lot of salons and baby stores. But like,
babies love salons.
Babies, there's baby salons. They've mastered the baby salon in Rochester, but you had a lot of kids that like didn't know what to do with their energy, and it's like they're either gonna like maybe be creative by themselves or just get into shit they shouldn't get into. So like, it was a great refuge, was The Factory, and so like I started doing shows there. I always think about, like, I remember being at the door once, and some kid paid $5 to get in, and then he asked who was playing.
Yeah,
so like,
they're just like, a show?
Yeah,
something to do
which is so exciting. Of like, oh my god, you actually did it. So like, I started doing a lot of shows there, and that's kind of where I kind of cut my chops as far as like doing weird shit in shows. So I had bought like a bunch of like, this is when like mustaches were just like beginning to be funny.
Okay.
Like, they're long, not funny anymore, but I had these like fake like adhesive mustaches. So I'd be like throwing those out in the crowd with like notes in them, and like, you get a shirt with this or whatever, and I was throwing out shirts. I ate a like sandwich on stage while my friend played a bass solo or whatever. It was just like weird shit, but it was like, people enjoyed it, and it was just whatever.
You got like a young, receptive crowd.
Yeah.
Like, you just ate a sandwich.
I mean,
this is amazing art.
Yeah, this is experimental shit. So I started doing that, and then like from there, then the blowout thing happened, and then I met a lot of people through the blowout that were like, oh, you should keep doing shows around here. This is really good. And like, because I was an early set. It was like at 8 p.m. So there wasn't a lot of people there. But the following 3 acts, people were coming to see. So at the tail end of my set, people started coming in, and they were like, what just happened? Like, people were really excited that we're there. And then, I gave a CD to a few people, and then like, that's where I got a first like blog write up and stuff. And it just sort of like steamrolled from there, and I just kept doing shows because I've always liked performing.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And then it just kept going, and then Passalaqua came in, and then the shows just kept going.
I was gonna, before we get like further past that, how did you get into the video stuff? You said you're like 15 years old, just like bootlegging these shows and shit, like filming, and I still do video stuff. Like,
I've always just been doing video shit since I was young. Like, I think like my dad has always been like ahead, like 3 steps ahead of everybody technologically.
Really?
So I've had like a Apple computer. I've been messing with it since I was like 3. You know what I mean? And like fixing like the recording shit on the VCR since I was very young. So it's just all been very natural. And so like, I remember in like 6th, 7th grade just, editing video through 2 VCR decks. Doing that shit. And so like, it's always kind of been like doing videos with my friends and whatever. Yeah. So it kind of just naturally progressed into like, oh, I can just do my own things. And like, if you go back to like the first real promo video I did was for the first Passalaqua EP, and it's like, the quality's super shitty. I didn't know anything about like frame rates or export settings or whatever, but there's like it's me and Brent just eating pizza in silence, and then another shot of us just like screaming out of pure joy right next to the screen, and that was it. And that was like the prelude of like Passalaqua was coming, and we were like, this is weird, what's up? And then like we put the shit out. So I think video stuff's always just been like a natural thing for me. I've always had like a camera handy. Yeah. Like my dad was again, like he worked for a company that would rent out video cameras like right as that became like a thing of like
people wanted like personal ones or
to do home videos, or like, and if you couldn't afford it, he did like video rentals and stuff. So I've always kind of been around that, and so like I've had my like life documented on video since I was born. So like I think it was probably just a natural thing for me to get into, and so I've just like always like doing it, and also like a lot of people just need it sometimes, and I'm like, hey, I can do it, and like
do you ever feel like it's like hard to find work with it now since like everybody does it? Like I always think like I film like skating and shit. Yeah. And like right after high school I saved up like $1,000. I was gonna buy a VX and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm just gonna film skating. I was like, actually, I'm gonna quit my job. And I just blew the money like all summer, and then like finally getting back into filming, it's like, man, I really fucking blew my chance. Like because you could have submitted to like 411, like, oh, $50 a clip, thanks bro. And now it's like it's all like submission based for like real companies and shit. Yeah, it's tough, and it's like, and like on top of that, it's like, if you don't have, like, I'm usually like, a lot of my video stuff is like using other content or whatever, because it's like I don't have a camera right now, and so it's like, you have to like, the competition's tough because so there's a lot of like really, especially in Detroit, I've like befriended a lot of like extremely talented filmmakers. Yeah. So it's like, it kind of makes you like a little self-conscious of like, is what I'm doing up to snuff? And so like I kind of just have tried to find whatever niche it is that I do of just like weird shit, and I just try to like do it in just from my viewpoint of like, this is how I'm going to do the video, and so like, you know, like, and it'll just be what it is, and like that's just my style. And I think like, you know, people want to go to me, cool. If they want to go to other people, that's fine. It's like they know like your kind of image though. It's like you're putting out like what you do. It's not like and I think it's like, oh, I'll film your wedding, like it'll be beautiful and like blah blah. It's like, no man, this shit's like fast and loose. Yeah, you're gonna film you eating pizza and then yelling. Yeah. Usually I'm a big fan of like one shots. Yeah. It's like, hey, I like that, you know, and like I just, you know, I've kind of always and I think every video thing, and I'm just like learning even now of just like trying to get just still fucking with it, and just like, and it's just with anything else, like the more you do it, the more you're like, maybe I'll try it like this, and like, for sure. So like, you know, like the new videos, like I'm gonna just have, because it's like for it being the round robin, I was like, I don't want to have it just like on one person the whole time, so there's everybody on the song is on the screen, right. So there's just like 5 images going at once, and I'm like, well, that way it kind of gives the idea of the round robin. There's a bunch of shit going on. You can constantly go back and be like, what was that? Like, I've always liked replay value. Yeah. That's something like with my songs and shit. Okay. I try to like write them. Like hidden stuff in there, like might not pick up on the first time and shit. Yeah, and also just like I feel like I've always written very densely. Yeah. So it's like I don't expect it to all be picked up immediately. Yeah. And so I've always liked replay value. So, you know, I try to do that with videos too. Yeah. Like something like, oh, if you wanted to watch it again, you could, and you wouldn't be like, fuck this, I'm turning it off, you know? So when did you start touring and stuff? The first tour, we did a couple tours in 2012, Passalaqua did. We had did a summer tour, like a 10-day thing, and this is the first time doing it. Our friend Rob booked it for us, and it was just like, again, when you're just starting, it's like, it's such an uphill fucking battle to get people to give any sort of a shit. So we had a rough time. Where'd you go? We did Toledo. Oh, we did. Sounds like a rough time already. Yeah, Toledo to start. We had where else did we go? We did a couple. We did Nashville. We did Knoxville. Wow, this is great. This is good to jog my memory back. We played Philadelphia. Nice. Philadelphia I think that might go down as one of the worst shows I've ever played. Dude, Philly used to be like, I feel like around that time, I could not get a show in Philly to save my life. Mm-hmm. And now I know like 6 dope people that like throw shows, and like a million other that play shows now. Yeah. But like for a while, it was like another one of those like snobby cities, like, oh, this is fucking Philadelphia, bro. You're from Pittsburgh? We don't listen to that shit.
Yeah, get the fuck out. So it's like, well, it's also that, and it's like sometimes too, like if you don't know the city,
you're
like, exactly. Oh, you're on the wrong side of the city. Nobody goes there. You should go here.
Like, what?
So like we played at a show. It was like it felt like it was 300 degrees outside. And it was like 150% humidity.
That's awesome.
The spot looked like it was out of a fucking David Lynch film. It could seat well over 1,000. There was 4 people there.
Awesome.
There were people that I brought, so like the local didn't even bring anybody, and they weren't there during our set.
Yeah.
So we just like left. So I was like, well, fuck you assholes.
It's like,
you know?
oh yeah, it's not even worth like waiting to the end. Like, hey, how do you split this $20?
Yeah, right.
Like,
so
I'd rather just fuck you.
I'd rather just like drink and forget this night happened.
Yeah.
And then we did a couple New York shows as well. So so that was like the first one, and then we did we toured with Jamaican Queens later that winter or that fall. And we did kind of a similar trek. I did some like Kentucky and DC as well. And that was really good. And then we didn't do any touring for a long time, just did a lot of shows in the area. And then fast forward to last year, I had met Height. I was
going to say, how'd you meet up with him? Because I feel like getting on one of his tours is pretty good. It makes his rounds a lot.
Yeah, no pun intended. So we, I went to see me and my friend Dima that did all the production of my earlier shit.
Yeah.
We were really into Grand Buffet. So Grand Buffet was opening for Streetlight Manifesto at the Majestic in Detroit. Streetlight being like a ska band, and so all the people there went to see the ska band, and we were the 2 kids that went to see the rap group, and so they were all like watching Grand Buffet, like, who are these guys? Like,
the
some
ska
people were
band ska band fans.
The ska band fans,
okay.
And they were like, what the fuck?
Ska band fans.
Yeah. And then like a guy came up and like rapped with them for like a track, and then like I went and bought some CDs. I went up to Jackson. I was like, great set. Who was that guy that came up? And he's like, oh, that's our man Height.
Yeah.
You should check out this album, Winterize the Game.
Dude, I listened to that the other day. These beats are like so banging on that.
So good. And so like I fell in love with Bad Weather. They played Bad Weather that night. I was like, this is incredible. And so I've been listening to Grand Buffet for a few years, and then I got into Height from that. We played a show with him probably 2012. Stayed in touch. He kept following our stuff, and then was like, I had done a round robin with him in Detroit, probably 2013, 14.
Okay.
A solo one, and then he was like, and I think that was around the time where he's like, I think we could do like a nationwide tour of this, and he's like, would you guys be down? So we're like, yeah, let's do it. And so it was Passalaqua and Height and East Jackson.
Yeah, that's where I met you on, right?
Yeah,
okay.
So and that was 2 months, which is, so like the last tour we
that was an official tour then.
And it was an official tour. So we did like, the first tour was, like the most recent tour up to that point was in 2012, but it was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a long time. And then so like this was a whole different 2 months. It's like fucking.
That's crazy.
Now like in retrospect, it's like, it's fucking crazy. So we did, we started in Baltimore, ended in Baltimore, which just went all around the country. You saw us kind of on like the second leg, because we had like a, more or less, and it was really good for us, I know for Brent and I for sure. We stopped in Detroit for like 5 days. Yeah. So we picked up a show that we didn't initially have, which was great, and we got some time to like just chill in our own beds, and that was nice. And then we went out for another like 3-4 weeks. So that was intense, but that was great because I like doing shows on the road. I like going to different cities, meeting new people, playing for different people besides like the 30 people that you play for in Detroit, or whatever. No disrespect, but
No, I know. It's like
you can oversaturate yourself, especially in Detroit. You can oversaturate yourself real quick, and where people are like, I could see them another time. They're playing next week, or
exactly.
whatever, and like it just
take you for granted or whatever.
Yeah, and so it's cool to like not be home for a while and just kind of like make friends across the country and like.
Just out gigging, no big thing.
Yeah, just doing a little gigging, living that road life, living that hashtag road life. So that was a lot of fun, and like I think, and then when we're on the tour, Height was like, we gotta just keep doing this. I think it's like people, even if there was 2 people there, they were like, this is great, and I want more people to be here. Like the concept's great and whatever. And so that was really good. And then this year I've done 2 small tours. There was we did one in March called Another Detroit Is Happening.
Yeah,
that was
I saw you at that one too.
Yeah.
Where you got billed with the weirdest band ever.
God, I just showed Height and Jackson that, and Jackson was like, I don't think you hollered at me. I would have came to the show. I was like, kind of felt shitty. But then also like, yeah, that was a really bizarre. It was such a bizarre show.
Yeah.
So we did that one with Mike Wright that's in Coleman Young, James Link, Joseph Bite. So that was like a little 10-day trek, and then I did another all Michigan tour, just because there's a lot of markets in Michigan. It's like Michigan's a fucking huge state, and so you can. There wasn't so much overlap with the crowd, which is great because it's like, even though Detroit is an hour from Ann Arbor,
people from Ann Arbor have their own scene where they're not going to travel back and forth for shit.
Right, and so it's close enough that you could go, but Detroit people aren't going to Ann Arbor and vice versa just for our show. So we hit up. So it was myself and Obese Ghost Children, some friends of mine, MC Friendly and Nordy.
That's it.
So like we did that tour with him, and then so that was in April, and then we're on this one now. So I just kind of like doing it. I think the smaller ones I feel are just more beneficial. Of just like, not to say that I regret doing the two-month one. I think if anything, it's given me perspective that the 2 week is also sufficient because you're still going on the road, you're still reaching out to people, you're not stretching yourself so thin. I think that was Height and I had like an existential talk, and I think it was in Missoula, Montana, where it's just like, we're like driving out, we drive 2 days to get to LA, and there's like 10 people there. And then we play San Francisco, and there's about the same. And we go to Portland, and there's 2 guys that didn't even know about the show, that just showed up, and we're like, oh, this is a show. And so it's like, is it really worth the time and gas and energy to just do this? So like, having a concentrated thing is easier for promotion, it's easier mentally, physically, and so I kind of like that.
Less risky too on the old wallet too.
Less risky on the wallet.
If you're out for 2 weeks, it's like, save up a little bit, we can make it happen.
Yeah.
For 2 months, anything could go wrong.
2 months is crazy, and so like, doing the 2 week thing is really fun, and so like this is another like it's a short run, but like especially the fact that I've been listening to Grand Buffet for 10 years. Yeah. I've been listening to Hype for about the same, and so like the fact that I'm touring with those guys is like it's something that I've told other people this, I can't explain what it means to me. I can't tell anybody like this is the craziest shit. Like this is like a rap dream. But people were like, whatever, I don't, like, who's Grand Buffet, or who's Hype? And it's like, well, like, I'm, like, I feel like I always, when anybody asks, like, who's my favorite rapper, like, I'll always have somebody that, like, be like, I don't know. Like, it's just like, but for me, Edom was a very important.
I was listening to him the other day, too.
Oh, yeah, Beauty and the Beast.
I want to be friends.
Oh, man. Dude, like, fucking Edom blew my mind. I saw him,
he was kind of was he from Baltimore?
He's from Rockville, which is the city next to Gaithersburg.
Okay, yeah.
Which is like, and I found that out later, that was really interesting. Another guy from Rockville was Father John Misty.
I don't know.
Oh, you should listen to him. Fear of Fun is an incredible album.
Okay.
So like, I don't know, it's so the touring with these guys is great. So it's like, it's 2 weeks, it's short, but like, for me, it's great. And like, for me, it's just like, it clears my head. Yeah. I get so fucking caught up in my own shit that like, it's good to just be on the road and just like, I just like performing, and I like, and like, I'm very comfortable performing, and that's just what I like doing. So like, doing the 2 week thing with two of like, one of my favorite MCs is like, it's great.
Yeah, that's sick. What are your future plans after this? What's we haven't even said your rap name yet.
Oh,
this is Mr.
Yeah.
There be an intro.
Yeah, there's an intro. Yeah, and Mr. was a thing that came out with like the MySpace shit, because I was like, I had a horrorcore rap name. I started doing horrorcore rap.
Oh, really?
Totally.
What was the name? Is there still the old MySpace up?
There might be. I think there's a sound click, maybe.
Oh shit.
So it was Brain Sick without the C. Now, I'm not a fan of misspelled words, but it looks better than with the C. Okay. I really had it all planned out, it was great. And then I was just like, you know what? And then I started growing out of it, and I was like, this is stupid. And also, like, with Brain Sick, it was like, you knew exactly what I was doing, or sort of. Like, if you're not a metalcore band, you're an angry rapper, and that's about it. So, like, I was like, I need something, like, a little bit different, just whatever. And I wrote Mr. out. I just spelled it out, and I, like, laughed. Like, I had a quick, like, belly laugh, and I was like, I think that's it, because it's like sometimes you can tell something, like if I laugh immediately, I'm like, there's something inherent about that I really like, and so it just stuck. And so Mr's just been, now mind you, this is like as Google is becoming a thing.
Yeah, you didn't think about it back then.
I'm not thinking SEO shit of like, oh great, I'm gonna have
how's anyone gonna Bing me?
Yeah, right. So like, so I'm working on that. Somebody recently was like, yeah, but you weren't able to Google Drake, a few years ago.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, thank you for that. So the future plans for Mr. I'm working on this album with that guy from the UK. We've been working on an album so long, he's changed his name 3 times. But he goes by Kurt Cataract now.
Okay.
He is a really incredible producer. There's something about his style that reminds me of something there's something very Detroit about him.
Okay.
Just like his production choice and so I'm about. It's getting very close to finish. It just needs a few more things to really flush it out.
Yeah.
Have some like really cool people on it that I'm really thankful for, and like.
Can you say, or is it top secret?
Top secret for now, but it'll be worth it. I know. But there's a couple of good ones that I was like, I lucked out that I have
Kid Rock, the local connect.
Bob Seger. I did a thing like I saw Leonard Cohen at the Fox a few years ago, and sometimes you do that thing where like you brush somebody's shoulder and you kind of like put the hand on your back. I did it to Bob Seger.
Oh, that's crazy.
I was like, oh, excuse me, Bob Seger. I gotta go take a shit.
You're in my way.
Yeah. So the album's gonna be hopefully wrapped very soon, and I'll be working on that. Working with just doing live shows when I can. I think it's a thing about like I'm gonna like retreat, work on this stuff, and then come back out. Height and I have flirted with the idea of maybe doing like a Canada tour.
Yeah.
Which I would love.
Yeah.
Maybe just stay there. Depending on what happens in the next few months.
Just like do it like right as the election's happening. Be like, well,
shit, I'm just not gonna come back. And like people are like, a lot of people are like, you're not gonna move to Canada. That's in a general sense. And I'm like, well, you know what? Like I'm very close to Windsor.
You already got to deal with the.
I'm right there. I feel like I'm sort of like an honorary Canadian. Like I watch a lot of hockey. I love Kids in the Hall. I drink a lot of beer, and so it's just be like, I think it'd be good. I think it'd fit in well.
Yeah,
I like Canadian hip hop, and so it's like, just come on, let me do this. So that might be.
Ira Lee, $1.65. Who else?
I like Decisive. Decisive's like, he's another one that's like one of my favorite MCs.
Yeah.
He's just done a lot of great shit, and people are like, who's Decisive? Shad's a really good one, and now he's the host of Q now.
Okay.
But incredible, Moonshine, Ghetto Socks, Fresh Kills. There's a lot. Yeah. So I'm hoping that would be great, and Be Rich as well, who we're going to be playing with in Kingston. So that might be on the horizon. We'll see. We'll have to see what Height says about that, and then just
how. So you're playing, what is it, Toronto or
Kingston, Ontario. Yeah.
How hard? Like, what do you have to do to tour to Canada? Like, get through the border. Is this going to be your first time?
No, we did. So I've done. We did a couple shows on the Jamaican Queens tour. We did Montreal and Toronto, and then the last round robin we did Kingston and Ottawa.
Yeah.
There's some paperwork on Height's end that he's done that I don't know about.
Because it's like his. Does he claim is it income or?
I don't know. I think like you have to have some sort of paperwork, some sort of documentation. I remember with the Jamaican Queens one, like at least one of the guys had a DUI, and it was fucking. Yeah. They search everything. I feel like they search your shit regardless, like if you're a musician. I know like last time we were coming back from Ottawa, which took forever because we went through Quebec. None of us speak French.
Yeah.
There's no English on any of the signs. None of our GPSs work because we're in Canada.
Yeah.
So we kind of lucked it out, and we made it. And then they were like, we had a confetti cannon, and they're like, what is this? We're like, it shoots confetti. And they're like, does it? And it's like, well, yeah, it does. So, like, they gutted, like, the whole van and shit. So I feel like it's always a hassle coming back into the States.
Mm-hmm. But no one was, like, counting your CDs on the way in or anything like that? Like,
no, I don't think so. I think it's like the last time when we were waiting as they gutted the van, they're like, hey, did you make more than $10,000 while you were here?
Oh my god!
And we all like had like.
You mean this year?
Yeah, we all had like the self-deprecating laugh of like, no, we didn't make any money. So it was all right, and like, so it's for an extensive tour, I'd be curious what that would entail. But I love playing in Canada. It's a fucking blast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm hoping to do more of that.
Fuck yeah, word, man. Well, let's wrap it up, bro.
It's wrapped.
Let's wrap round robin.
Wrap round robin it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, no sweat, dude. Thank you. Yo, yeah, that was my interview with Mister. And this is his track, The Ooze. Check it out.
Everybody's moving on to a different plane with a host of new faces to greet them along the way. And I watch them with little regard to the ones that been the rich in my life, playing a part in my evolution to a better being. See, a lot of times I don't wanna be me, but I'm gradually overcoming the nastiness of that. And if not, I'm wishing I could down a different head, but what a shame. That kind of thinking is rude and detrimental to my health, left feeling a fool. But these days it seems more than ever it is so easy to fall prey to it. Really ought to just refrain from finding contentment in other skin and just retrain my mind and what love I had within while I'm keeping a keen eye on previous trend, hoping to steer wide and never fall victim again. Yup. It's just a little thing, but it's so big to me. Every waking day, it's just a little thing, but it's so big to me, and it won't go away. No, it won't go away. Let them line to dictate my mood, it's a no-go. It's something I grow, yet it says it on social. Though when I look at the bigger picture, it seems I dismiss the panorama for the flicker of a screen. I mean, damn, I gotta get out more, cause indoors I expose myself to a downpour. All for nothing important, while these outside sources are doing their best to distort my orbit. And so it's here I'll breathe, thin air time disappear around me. I am just a voyeur, watching friendships fizzle, not doing the damn thing to avoid it. Sitting and I gotta destroy this outdated model that has left me voiceless. One day I will, when the weight will be gone, but some songs they don't give way to resolve. No.